Good evening, everyone. Tonight, before we get started, we do have some regrets. Trustee Amanda Monet, Trustee Deb Edwards, Trustee Rob North, and Trustee Nicole Black. I've all sent the regrets for this evening, and as Trustee North is the Vice Chair of the committee, the first thing we need to do is appoint a Vice Chair for this evening, so I'll call for nominations for that position. Trustee Ley?
Thank you. I'd like to nominate Trustee Armstrong.
Is there a second for that? Thank you, Trustee Locke and Trustee Armstrong. Would you accept that nomination? Okay. Are there any other nominations? Any other nominations? Any other nominations? Okay, see none? Trustee Armstrong, would you join me at the front? Agenda. Is there someone that would move? Trustee Beacock, seconded by Trustee Locke. Any questions or comments with respect to that? Trustee Smith?
Madam Chair, a question actually, with respect to the B15. It just struck me that perhaps that was actually a closed session.
I don't believe what's in the report is going to be closed session materials.
But the debate could be right. Yeah, it's just that it could trigger some closed almost instantly.
Well, that's fine, and then we can move to go into closed if that's warranted at that time. But I do believe this is an agenda item at this point in time. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Are there any declarations of conflict of interest with respect to tonight's agenda? Okay, seeing none, I would ask for a motion that we move into closed session. Trustee Mayne, seconded by Trustee Locke. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Trustee Rob North and Trustee Nicole Black for this evening. So at this point in time in our public agenda, we are at presentations and delegations. And the first presentation tonight will be from MCL McKnight, Sharon Loren Architects with respect to Victoria Harbour. Superintendent Dance, please.
Thank you. Through you, Chair Lloyd. I'd like to introduce Manager Steve Parker. Steve will introduce our presentations, both of them in sequence. Steve is here, as well as Ron Merrifield and Chris Whalen, who are project coordinators on these tasks in front of them. As a notice of a mention of the process to get to this point. As per our usual practice, we did have a design committee involved with Alcona South, which is the second presentation. Because of time, and certainly also that it is an addition in the situation of Victoria Harbour, and as a result of the arc that took place there, we did not have a design committee. So just so that the trustees understand that there was a difference in process, but both end up with what we think are great results for the communities involved. So with your permission, I'll introduce Steve Parker, who will start us off in our presentation.
Thank you, Superintendent Dance. And through you, Chair Lloyd, as Mr. Dance mentioned, MCL has been working on the design for the consolidation of Wabashee Pines, Port McNicoll, and Vic Harbour.
Excuse me, can you just speak a tiny bit louder or see if we can get that mic a little bit higher? Yeah, that might work better. Thanks.
Everybody hear me?
I
can just speak louder.
That would be really good. Thank you.
I tend to mumble at security for couldn't hear that. Sorry. So as mentioned, MCL has worked with the board through this design for the consolidation, but also through the years through I'd like to say painstaking projects through very numerous small interior renos and small additions as such. We thought we would give them the opportunity to do something a little grander and a little further complexities and just a little more meat to this project. So, like I said, they've been working hard for us for a number of years, and it's a good opportunity to put their talents to good use for this particular design. Also, as Superintendent Dance mentioned, there was not a formal design committee for this. However, project coordinator Ron Merfield and Steve Sharon have been to all the sites that are involved in consolidation and talked to the principals and trying to get feedback from the communities as far as what needs to go into this consolidation design. So without getting into it, I'll let Steve take over and take you through the design.
Thank you, Steve. I don't have a long time for this presentation. I'm going to take you through some design decisions that have been made over the past couple of months. Decisions which have been driven by both program and by site issues. The school has gone through several additions already. It's on a rather large site. The property is quite immense, and that's quite beautiful. There's a good growth of trees in the back. The unfortunate location with the school is the fact that it's actually located on a crescent, which is sort of off a main street, and the school is actually somewhat concealed within the community, which is unfortunate because you like the school to have a huge, it's a good community presence, and to be a real drawing card for students and to play a vital role in the community. So that became a part of our challenge with respect to adding onto the school again. And again, I think the school was built in 61 and then added on to 67 and 81 or 88. So the school is growing and growing. And now that we're adding on to it again, it was an opportunity to do something for the school and give the school something which actually increased its profile in the community. And that's what we're trying to do with this design. The one photo up in that corner here is the existing main entrance to the school. And you don't actually see it as you approach the school until you actually get right out in front of it. You don't see it from the main arterial routes. And although, granted, Detroit Harbor is not a huge community, still the school is somewhat concealed back in behind a few residential properties. So as you come up, let me see if I can get this pointer to work here. So as you approach the school and come off the street here, you actually are surprised by the size of the school as you come into that crescent. So your approach to the school, one's approach to the school became sort of instrumental in what we might do in taking this design forward. I'm just going to jump into the next slide. The existing survey is on the screen now, and you can see essentially without looking at the rear, what I'll call the rear yard, there's a rather large playground in the back, but you can see how the school has grown coming off the main route. You can see as I follow the pointer here that the busing comes into here, makes its way out over here. There's an addition to the, we'll call this the east, looking at it from this being the north direction. The portables have gone through a number of different sort of variations of layout over many years. And so this part of the playground is somewhat chopped up and fragmented, although things have been added by the community to sort of spruce up the playground. So there is a strong community presence and involvement with the school. So looking at the existing buildings as we sit now, and jumping into how we are addressing the site with an addition, you can see that we've selected the west end of the school to add approximately 24,000 square feet of one-story construction, one-story building. And what we're trying to do at this end of the school is revive the profile of the school as you approach it. And you'll see that later on in some of the elevation sketches we've provided. The other reason we've located at this end of the school, as the school was added on, it extended towards the east and essentially ran out of space with respect to buildable land. The school is actually up almost a full story on this east end, and there's considerable fill underneath this addition, the last addition. So from this point on, where my pointer is, the grade falls off quite substantially, and the suitability for a new structure, again, at that end of the building would mean more fill. We had some discussions about whether it might be a two-story addition, but building at this end of the school was essentially, again, hiding, and not taking advantage of the opportunity to build out front, where we felt the school needed, again, some kind of a new vision. So we sort of abandoned this sort of strategy and came over to the other side, initially looking at a two-story structure so that we could optimize the land and not chew up as much of the property with where a one-story does. But again, a two-story structure starts to take on a different sense of scale, and it wasn't really giving us a lot of opportunity to do things with respect to layout. For such a small addition, relatively speaking, it would mean introducing stairs and elevators and a lot of other costs, which really were chewing up the budget very quickly without giving us a lot of return. So we spread out the program over the one story, and realizing that in the existing school, we are also doing a lot of renovation to sort of change the program so that it was meeting the current needs of the school. So the colored area is the addition in this case. We've got the gym component, which is out at the closest proximity to the street. Again, the gym being somewhat of a community, an opportunity for the community to sort of engage the school and use the facility after hours potentially. For sport events or even school events where parents arrive at school. Again, it's a bit of an iconic location. The gym is essentially a community gathering space in many instances. So the gym took a little bit of a priority in sort of grabbing that sort of spot at the front of the school. Now, I'm going to take you over to this side of the pointers. This is the current main entrance to the school. We are doing some work in this area so that we're relocating office over here so that our main entrance to the school is now closer to the main approach to the school. And you'll see in the elevation and the rendering later how the front of the school is now becoming more of a destination rather than just a front door to a building. The unfortunate thing about the existing school layout is that we've got two classrooms right here, which was sort of, making the front entrance somewhat concealed as you approach it from this direction. So again, just very quickly, there's a gym, change rooms, there's 9 classrooms in this pod right here. The kindergartens at this end are being, they're consuming, 3 classrooms are becoming 2 kindergartens, the pointer back. And there are 2 kindergartens across the hallway which are existing, which are also having some renovation work done in it as well. The school is requiring new roofing. There's maintenance to the school, which we are also addressing as well. Internally, the office gets redesigned so that as you're coming in the main entrance to the school, the office is immediately noticed and again becomes a bit of a community greeting space as well as a control location. It just made sense if we were going to try and do something with the main entrance that we would also address how that main entrance addresses the office and the administration areas. Move on quickly here to the next slide. Actually, I'll just add here as well with respect to the property and how the traffic flow works on this very quickly. The kiss and ride strategies are a challenge in every school, as we know. So in this particular case, we organized the site so that we can actually bring parents in at the east end of the property following this blue line, and we're introducing a kiss and ride sort of loop through this area and out, and so that kids can be dropped off at onto a sidewalk here, cross over a controlled speed. There's going to be an elevation here in the asphalt to allow pedestrians, students to cross onto this space. And also this entire length of sidewalk here is a drop-off spot. And children can actually be dropped off and come into the playground almost immediately. On the west side, we have a similar loop which we've kept to busing. So the buses will arrive into this entrance, park along this edge of the curb, both in the morning and the afternoon, and then leave out, there it is, leave out the middle entrance. We have 3 entrances to this property. This, sorry, I'm using my pointer.
Yeah.
There it is. This is actually a town property right here, and so the actual property line for the school is right here. So we're taking advantage of using some of this town property. And as we come in, this is school property. This is a private residence, a residential property. This is also a residential property. This is school property on the other side, and then we have another piece of town property along this property. So we are doing some improvements on town property to enhance both the kiss and ride and the bus loop. Staff parking, very quickly, is accessed through this entrance and into this parking lot, but also through this entrance to take advantage of these parking spaces, which normally happen prior to bus arrival. And normally, again, it's busy times when buses leave in the afternoon. That's just a quick overview of how the traffic circulates through website plan. Next, floor plan I should have took you to earlier. So again, as I was saying previously on the site plan, the colored areas indicate the new addition, and you can see how the internal organization of the school is set up so that the circulation within the school is very sort of organized and easy to control. We've actually closed off one hallway here in the school, an existing hallway, to take advantage of some of the adjacent spaces spilling out into that existing corridor. So we've taken advantage of some of that circulation space where it's no longer required. And again, gym, change rooms, washrooms, classrooms, access to the rear playground, which is on sort of an access from the main entrance, so that you can actually come into the school and find your way very easily through the school to whichever location you're going to. Taking you to the next one. So with respect to how this new entrance was going to appear to the community, we started looking at community buildings and giving a sense of arrival through the use of glass and through canopies and warm materials, or somewhat organic natural materials, trying to create some interest in the main entrance, which we felt the school was lacking. So really it's starting to look like a community building and not necessarily an elementary school, and I think this is going to be the success in this design. We took this sketch and took it into the next level of design, and as you can see in the rendering, it's evolved into community place, we feel. The arrival is, there's just some other views. The arrival is highlighted through the use of lots of glass, a sense of transparency to the community. The community will feel very invited coming into a rather large foyer. The use of stone to sort of create a warmth and a building material which isn't actually used in the school yet at this point. We're using wood beams. The existing school has an abundance of wood glue and beams, which we are repeating so that we're continuing on with some of the existing school material or vocabulary, again, to blend it in with the existing school. This little area here becomes an outdoor classroom, again, facing the community. It's essentially a rockery with low planting, a bit of a courtyard, again, as a place where you might You know, you might visit this area of the playground when you're out for a walk and the school perhaps isn't even open. That's the last slide. I'm going to go after the other one. There we go. Thanks. Very good. I'm going to leave you with this slide because it is the main entrance. It's essentially the driving force in the sort of the appearance of the school, given the program that's been suggested to us. So I'll leave it at that, and if there's any questions, I can address them.
Are there any questions from trustees? Trustee Beacock, please.
Thanks, Madam Chair, and through you. Just wondering about busing and whether the parking area or where the buses are coming in and out, if there's enough room for them all to actually pull in and not have to be staged up the street or something like we have had to do on occasion. So I'm just wondering, we're going to be increasing the number of buses coming to the school. So I'm just wanting to make sure that we've got enough space to accommodate all those buses, not so much in morning, because they will arrive at different times, but at night.
Go ahead and answer that, thank you.
Sure, I'll jump in. And through you, Chair, yes, we've actually worked with the planning department as well to make sure that we've planned for the maximum amount of busing that could occur in the future based on enrollment. We've also sat down with the preliminary meeting with the town and discussed on-site parking, pedestrian traffic and such. So the staging of the buses as it sits right now on this plan, we have basically an agreement with the town that access road can be utilized as our bus staging area for dismissal. Arrival, we find that depending on the times, but the buses come and go more frequently, so we don't have that lineup period. But yeah, for this sort of exercise, what we've done is we've allowed us to segregate the two parking areas so that parents are not crossing into bus lanes and vice versa. And then we have enough time for the buses to sit, wait, and get all the way back and sort of cross traffic.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee Mayne, did you have a question?
I do, thank you, Madam Chair, and through you. Thank you for your presentation. A couple of things that I love, the outdoor playground, that's fantastic, and also how you implemented the old menu, that's really great too. I just had a question about, I know that there's parking just on the left there when you come in, for staff, I think you said, in the lower left. Now the middle arm there, is that, I know there's parking there as well, but is that just an exit, or is that an entrance as well on that part?
At the moment, it is an entrance and an exit, but I know that right now it is controlled. I think it's only an exit. That could work either way, depending on hours of car movement versus bus movement. I can see that being something decided later on.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions? I just have one question. During the art process, and there was a lot of people who were concerned that the site wasn't big enough, didn't have the capacity to accommodate the amalgamation, the traffic flow, the number of students. And so from this presentation tonight, I'm getting the impression that there is ample space on that site to accommodate what needs to be done and to facilitate parking and the kiss and drop program and all of those things. Can you just confirm that for me, please?
Yeah, and back to you, Jerry. Absolutely. Yeah, we've, as Steve mentioned, through a number of designs, we've determined that with this particular design and traffic operation, that we can achieve bylaw requirements in addition as well to the number of parking spaces and bus traffic and pedestrian traffic that we're going to require.
Okay, thank you. And Trustee Armstrong, question?
Thank you. On the heels of that, I'm just wondering about your enrollment. What will be the enrollment size for this school with the addition?
Sorry, I actually don't have the exact numbers.
Superintendent Dance, I believe you might have it.
Thank you, and through you, Chair Lloyd, Vice Chair Armstrong, it's being built for 525 students. We anticipate the population being higher at the beginning, but with plans numbers coming in, we see that going down to the expected level of OTG of 525.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much for your presentation and sharing this with us this evening.
Okay, and for our next presentation, we have Socotra Webler Architects. They're just going to be setting up their laptop here to dazzle you with the 3D modeling that we're enticing our architects to go through for the buildings. While they set up, again, I'll just bring you through a brief description of what we've gone through. We did, in fact, have a design committee for this particular design, so we've sat through a number of meetings now and received excellent feedback from trustee and principal and actually operations department as well. So the design committee meetings were very successful in our mind, and Coach Webler listened to some of our rants and put their own design into it, but definitely were able to accommodate the needs that we were trying to present. Again, just a brief history of Scotia Webler. They have also been involved in a number of small renovations and full-day kindergarten program upgrades that we've gone through over the years, as well as many of you know, the James Keating addition renovation. They also helped us or were involved in the Maple View construction and design, as well as art at public school. So another architect they've been put through the ringer, and we're going to take you through this new school design as well. I want to introduce all three of them. I don't know who to stop.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dana Sococho, and on behalf of Socotra Webler Architects, I'd like to thank the Simcoe County.
Can I just get you to speak into the mic? It's very hard there.
Sorry. I thought I would speak with a loud voice, but I think I'll use the microphone. Just once again, my name is Dana Sococho, and on behalf of Socotra Webler Architects, I'd like to thank the Simcoe County District School Board for selecting our firm for the design of the new elementary school, the new Alcona South Elementary School. We're thrilled to be working on the project with the design committee, and we're going to make a very nice presentation to you with lots of color and a 3D rendering. I will be presenting the floor plans to you. Paul Wepler will present the site plan, and Nick Groves will present the 3D modeling of the building.
I'm Paul Wepler, and we'll run you through the site plan for the new Alcona South Elementary School. The school fronts on Webster Boulevard, and we've laid out the site to promote one-way circulation of all traffic on the site. And site traffic is always a challenge, dealing with buses and kiss and ride and short-term parking, visitor parking, staff parking. So we've actually provided 3 entrances to the site then to help control that traffic. The first entrance towards the south end of the site handles all of our staff parking and kiss and ride. So the one entrance is a full entrance in and out that will allow parents to bring their cars in, offload on the curbside directly into the park, into the play area at the back, and also allow staff cars to come in and park and then enter the building. The main driveway across the front of the building is reserved for short-term parking at the north side, primarily for kindergartens, which are located at this portion of the site, to allow parents to park, take their child into the kindergarten area, hand them off to their teacher, and then exit the site. The other function of this area is for busing. So all of our busing will be located here, and buses will enter in one-way circulation and exit the site. Meetings with the town of Innisfil, very supportive of our plan with the three entrances. These main entrances align with future streets in the development of the future residents on the west side of our Webster Boulevard. Again, looking at the overall site, there's existing residences to the north. There's a very large neighborhood park to the east, and there'll be future residences to the south in this area. We have area on the site designated for future expansion of the building and locations identified for future portables if need be for, to accommodate some growth, and then a play area adjacent to the existing park.
The building is a 45,500 square foot new school to accommodate 412 pupil places. We've been able to capture all of the program components in a floor plan that exceeds the Ministry of Education benchmarks for per square foot allocations per student. So we have accomplished this at 110 square feet per student, which is lower than the 113 that would be allowable. So what that means is that hopefully we'll have a few more dollars per square foot to use on the construction of the building. But in saying that, we've captured all of those program components in a very liberal way. We haven't scrimped on the size of our classroom or the circulation space. Everything is accounted for. We've also designed for the future addition, so we have the washroom count in place according to building code for the future addition. With that, I guess we'll just go through the floor plan, which you can see on the screen. We have all of the vertical circulation points are colored in red. So you'll see that there are 3 staircases going up the left side of the classroom wing. And I should use my pointer here. And then you'll see the elevator in the corner across from the main entrance, or the general office area. So you'll see the main entrance located in this location. So what we've done is we've used the library as a focal point in the 2-dimensional planning and the 3-dimensional planning of the architecture. So the entrance is here, the library, the multi-purpose room, and the gymnasium colored in blue, and to the left, the combination of general office and staff room. This is a very nice setup in planning in that all of the people in the general office area, principal, vice principal, secretaries, can use the staff room facilities, washrooms, telephone, private telephone area without exiting that suite of rooms. And conversely, the staff can enter the staff facility and pick up mail in this location without coming through the main office. We have to the left 4 kindergartens two each, sharing an entrance, washrooms, code area, and the second suite here. These are the primary classrooms colored in green. The custodial areas for servicing and receiving and so on are located in this area adjacent to the parking facility. We've got change rooms with the gym and storage rooms, etc. Then going to the second floor of the building, it's a very compact layout of a classroom wing. So you'll see the 3 staircases, the library, all of the classrooms in green color, and our community room or special education room with breakout rooms in the blue color. Student washrooms are stacked in the building, so the second floor washrooms are here, and the ground floor washrooms in this location, so for economy of plumbing and so on, stacking these facilities. So all in all, it's a very compact plan. We're calling it the L plan. We looked at another concept for the school with the design committee, so we presented 2 different concepts, but this was the preferred concept, and we were able to achieve those areas below the benchmark with this concept, so it's quite a successful plan in that regard. So I think Nick Groves will now present the 3D rendering of the building.
So as Dana said, I'm Nick Groves. So in designing the exterior, we really wanted to give the school a nice presence on the street and a good presence in the community. We like to think that it's important to design a timeless architecture, so something that will age well and that's very current and will remain current. On a previous project that we did for the board, which was Art Off Public School, we utilized the board's commit to character trait colors on the exterior, and we believe we were very successful with that. So we wanted to take that idea again and apply it to this new Alcona South Elementary School. So as you can see, we've created kind of a focal point on the one end of the building, the library, highlighting it with these colored panels to go with these character trait colors. And then we've tied the other end of the building in with more of the colors on the second floor, along the classrooms, and then down the side, down the classroom, and we repeat these colors above the windows, just to kind of create this playful character to the building. And we also use the masking and the materiality to highlight and enhance certain features of the building to kind of create an interesting play from the street. So it's not just a very overwhelming structure. It kind of steps back from the front facade, and it's a little more welcoming at the front, and then as it gets back into the site, all of the masking kind of grows up. So we've pulled the stairwells up a little bit higher above the roof and added a different material to kind of highlight these entrance spaces to the building. We've pulled the entrance canopy out towards the street to create this welcoming feature, and as I mentioned before, kind of creating this large volume on one end for the library to kind of welcome the community and provide this presence on the street. And then I'm going to just pivot around in the model. This is just kind of a rough model so you can see just the general arrangement of the entire building. So this is again just the view from the one corner showing the library, the classrooms, the colored panels going down the side, and then this kindergarten play area with the kindergarten entrances and this outdoor teaching space. So we just kind of pivot around here to see this library on the corner that the masking is pulled up to create this larger structure on the corner and create this presence. And you can see we created the mechanical penthouse and gave it a red color to differentiate it from the rest of the building and to tie these colors in again. So just coming around the back, we have a large asphalt play area. The back of the gym is a large expansive wall for games. And we tie the colors in again on the stairwells on the opposite side. And at the one end of the building, we've created this kind of leader or blank wall so that any potential future additions can be just added onto this wall very easily and built out further into the site with minimal cost and minimal demolition work to the existing school. And then just again coming around the classroom wing and just seeing how these colored panels lead you down the side of the building, and just seeing the kindergarten windows and the entrances out into the area.
So that concludes our presentation, and once again, we're very excited about this project. We're looking forward to moving on to the construction documents and applying for the building permit, site plan agreement, and getting the shovel in the ground. And hopefully very soon we'll see the actual building. It's very colorful and I think well designed building. We welcome any questions, and we've got a little mailing for you that Paul is going to pass around so you can take some of the information home with you and put it on your own tab board.
Thank you. Are there any questions from trustees at this point in time with respect to this design presentation? Trustee Armstrong, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was on the design committee, but only at one meeting, but I have to say, I just appreciate the elegant design. Typically schools are utilitarian, they're useful, not necessarily attractive. So this is just, when you consider how much time our children are in an elementary school, possibly 10 years of their elementary career, it's going to be a wonderful place to be. And I can also say, knowing the area and where that site is, the neighborhood is going to be ecstatic with this beautiful, beautiful design. It's going to be such an asset to the community in that area, and you're the sort of the start off of the development. There is housing there, but the park really hasn't developed, and the kickoff of that, it's just going to be a wonderful community hub for that space. So congratulations. I think it's a very, very well thought out design, and it's just I just really like the frontage as far as having the library where it is and the gym. I think that space as you come in is just really a welcoming space. So congratulations, and look forward to the school opening. It's great to see the 3D because you really get a feel of the scope of this plan. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from trustees? Okay, thank you very much for coming this evening. Appreciate it very much. Okay, thank you very much. So this takes us on to the next section of our agenda this evening, which is items for decision. The first item tonight is the attendance area review for Barrie North Collegiate Institute and Elmvale District High School. Superintendent Dance, please.
Thank you, and through you, Chair Lloyd. For trustees tonight is a report following an attendance area review. A meeting took place last December at Menacing Central Public School with regard to this proposed change to the attendance area review between the two high schools mentioned. This is a situation where we've had a boundary that is, for Elmvale, we've had a situation where students have been able to access transportation from as far south as Snow Valley. This is cleaning opening up of an area, but with recognition from the community input in this attendance area review of the attachment of the northern area of the Minising public school attendance area to Elmville District High School. That is referenced through the work done through the planning department following that public meeting to ascertain the knowledge of it, the fact that there is a shared boundary, and also recognizing the interest of the community members from specifically the Anthony Mills area wishing to continue the option to go to Elmville District High School. So as you can see from the map attached at the conclusion of this report, it is proposing that a shared boundary continue with Horseshoe Valley as being the centerpiece, where the students coming from that area would be able to select either Barrie North or Elmville District High School. That has been the overwhelming wish of the community members as they've gone through the years since this boundary was revised a couple of decades ago, and it certainly is one that staff listened to following that. Certainly happy to answer any questions with regard to this.
Thank you very much for that. Is there any questions or comments from trustees at this time? Trustee Beacock and then Trustee Smith, please.
Thanks, Madam Chair, and it's really just a comment. We did attend the meeting, and there certainly was some people that would have liked to have continued. We also have to recognize that because of the shared boundary and the fact that many of those people do lean towards Barrie for a number of their situations, that it does kind of make sense. The only challenge I'm having with it is because we've opened up an area in Wasaga Beach to allow people to go either to Elmville or Collingwood. So we're allowing them, we're opening a border on one side and sort of closing one off on the other side. But I also get the cost of the busing and the fact that when you're having two buses going through the same areas to pick up, small amounts of kids, that we have to take that into consideration as well. So while I'm disappointed, I understand, and our meeting was fairly well received, and we have to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Smith, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I can't help noticing this is basically the first of 10 documents here tonight that are about capital planning and changes to the county. And with this particular one, I see some strong correlations with the one further in the package, BF1I2, and the borders. And I was wondering if someone could explain to me the rationale between moving the Black Creek Estates area to Bear Creek while still keeping this area tied to Barrie North. It looks like they're different maps, but they are actually, I think, the same maps in certain portions. And if you could just explain that to me, I'd appreciate that.
Superintendent Dance, please.
Thank you, and through you, Chair Lloyd, Trustee Smith. It's a good question. The fact is that the attendance area for Minising, the rationale for the later report and with regard to the change there is related to the capacity at Minising. That is an alignment of a change that we put in place last year through the capital planning process to close Minising to out of area students. And I'll certainly answer more questions about that report as we go forward, but this is related to a historic situation that's been taking place, and as was referenced by Trustee Beacock, the geography of the situation with regard to the distance that a group would have to travel. Having measured the distance from one location to the other, Snow Valley, which is the furthest extent of the shared boundary at this point with this area, is upwards of 30 kilometers away from Elmville District High School, and that was the intent of this report, was to try to change that so that the distances were within the range of a shorter bus ride and the extent of student transportation.
Follow-up, Trustee Smith, please.
Yeah, it's a separate question on the same report. I've never actually seen a report, I don't believe, that had the percentage of people aware of something. Normally when you have an attendance area review, ones I've been at least, people delegate the review, they talk about it, there's reports of some sort, people often delegate the board for that matter. So I'm wondering, did we have any kind of assessment as to what the parents' opinion was? Not that they were aware of it, because being aware has many different levels of being aware and not liking, aware and liking. So can you tell me, did the public support this?
Superintendent, I do believe Trustee Beacock said it was well received, but Superintendent Dance, can you please respond?
Thank you. Through you, Chair Lloyd, Trustee Smith. The intent of this survey was to, it was proposed at that meeting that the people in the community did not know. The survey was conducted by the planning department with all of the children at Minising School referenced, and that's what this was intended to prove, was that yes, people were aware of this, because it was stated at the meeting, I believe, and Trustee Beacock was there, as well as Superintendents Finlayson and Simpson, that this was, in fact, knowledgeable amongst the population, and that, for the most part, people are oriented towards Barrie in the whole of the Minising area, and that was their intent, to continue to go to Barrie North. As I mentioned, listening to the population and seeing the results and what was referred to in the poll, that's why we continue to have the opportunity for people in the Anton Mills area to go towards Elmville District High School.
Thank you. Paul? Oh, I just didn't quickly answer. Was this supported by the public, or was it not? Because I'm hearing that the survey was done, and I'm hearing that there's awareness, and I'm hearing that there's stuff going on here that's discussion, but I'm not hearing, did the public support it? Superintendent Dan?
Through you, Chair Lloyd, to Trustee Smith, from the selection of the students that had the opportunity to go there, the public do support this. What we have seen with the students graduating grade 8 is that the students in the areas that are continuing to go towards Barrie North are choosing Barrie North. And that is, they're speaking with their decision on option sheets. I don't have the survey in front of me to refer to.
Okay, thank you. Is there any further questions from trustees at this point in time? Okay, there is a recommendation contained within this report that the Business and Facilities Standing Committee recommended the board approve the attendance areas for Elmville District High School and Barrie North Collegiate Institute for implementation in September 2016 as set out in Appendix A of report number BFP1, Attendance Area Review, Barrie North Collegiate Institute and Elmville District High School, dated November 5th, 2014. Is there a mover for this motion? Trustee Ley, seconder. Trustee Locke, thank you. Any questions or comments before I call the question? Okay, see none. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Okay, that takes us on to item number 2 for decision, which is the 2014 Capital Priority Project List Consolidation, Efficiency, and Modernization. That is Superintendent Dance, please.
Thank you, and through you, Chair Lloyd. Before the trustees tonight is a revised capital priority project list. It mentions consolidation, efficiency, and modernization. Draw your attention to the fact that last month, September, we had approval from the trustees to present to the ministry 2 projects for school capital consolidation, which is a new fund that was established by the ministry through their B08 memo this past year. And so this report is a result of the ministry indicating to staff in a very clear way through conversation that they will be issuing a call for renewed for capital priorities going into the early part of this next year. It is certainly the intention of staff to have a list that is revised based on the fact of approvals. As trustees recognize, we have been funded for a number of projects. These projects are either are carryover with one addition, which is the East Alliston Public School, which we're responding to the increasing growth pressures in that area, even after the development and opening of Alliston Union Public School. It is certainly the intention to be able to have business cases prepared when the ministry calls, and as trustees recognize, these business cases take some time to prepare. Also included in this report are the appendices that are the business cases for the two capital consolidations. They outline what is being looked for. The situation with the one is following the ARC motion regarding the closure of Barrie Central to prepare a capital priorities business case to accommodate students from Barrie Central in schools. So that is one aspect of the first SCC business case that's attached as an appendix. The second one is the business case for the proposal from staff for the best case scenario, a new school to result from the ARC that ends with Penetang Secondary School closing and consolidating into Midland Secondary School. And as you can notice, we've started to refer to this as North Simcoe Secondary School as per the ARC motions from earlier this year. Certainly happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. So are there any questions at this point in time for Superintendent Dance with respect to this report? Trustee Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I believe this is the first time I've ever seen capital priorities project list come to the board this early in the prior year. But I'm very concerned that this has a significant impact on the upcoming term for the new trustees that are going to be on the board. In fact, I think it actually usurps their responsibilities to take care of the capital plan over the next 2015 year. This particular report brings to us two projects unseen previously by trustees, and I think that's very important the public realizes. This report was the first time the board had received a copy of what the plan was. And I find it very disconcerting that this is going forward at a time just as we are about to close the term. The key issue we have here is a major change in the process, going from Barrie Central and a closure that has been in the process for a while, but to focusing in on funding a massive renovation to Barrie North. That's about $21 million, if my memory serves me correctly. And that's an awful lot of money, considering just a month ago we said that we had to have a revenue neutral partnership with anybody who wanted to save Barrie Central. So I'm wondering, would it be possible to put this off, since there is actually nobody asking for it, and normally it's not asked for until February or March in the following year by the ministry, and since you've already actually filed two of these cases, I understand anyway, prior to the trustees seeing them, could it not be put off till next year so the new board could actually have a chance to shape the next term?
Superintendent Dance, please.
Thank you, and through your Chair Lloyd, Trustee Smith, the four projects ahead in front of trustees right now, one includes Elmville District High School. The business case for this has not been submitted in its form for this coming year. What this report is asking for is the authorization to create the business cases. With regard to the two business cases that are in the middle, which are in reference to our previous capital priorities business cases for Barrie Central and for Midland Secondary School, these are the business cases that we had to submit by October 15th and were referenced in the September 24th board meeting. They are the projects that, in order to be able to be eligible for the SCC funding that was previously mentioned, those ones had to come forward. The only truly new project with regard to the access for funds is the Alliston East Public School. The change in direction with regard to the focus of the funding for from Barrie Central to Barrie North is a result of the ARC motion that was passed, and because of the inability to reach cost-neutral, viably financial partnership for Barrie Central. So the result is, and certainly we presented these business cases to the ministry upon direction, meeting the deadline, and they're being shared with trustees at this point, just as we have done before with business cases. Last year we presented 6 business cases, and they were shared with trustees at the time. With regard to the timing for this, as I mentioned, in our conversations with the ministry, when we go down to talk about our business cases, we've had very forthright conversations with them. They believe that they are going into a cycle of asking for, because of the BO8 funding, as I mentioned, it's 3 years, $750 million. Their indication to us was that they would be putting a call out in the fall, which we've already answered, for the consolidation funding, which has specific terms, and then they will be asking for capital priorities for those other aspects that are not consolidation, or could include those as well, in the early part of this year. Without the opportunity to develop a capital plan, and certainly with deference to the fact that we have a new board of trustees, it's the intention of staff to be able to have a list so that it can go forward to be considered by the ministry so that we do not miss the opportunity for funding. The opportunity comes along only once in a while from the ministry, and in this case, they're indicating that we may be needing to back up our capital planning process if they're going to continue with the same cycle of funding. At this time, we have no assurance other than the fact that they've said they were going to do that, but it's prudent on our part before the next capital plan 2014 is passed, before the new group of trustees, that we act on this opportunity. Because as trustees recognize, we've been very successful with these capital priorities business cases because of the certainly the collaboration of staff in creating business cases that the ministry will support. With reference to the final point that was made about the dollars against the Barrie North project, that certainly is one that, as we've said before, the ministry chooses to fund the projects. We've put forward the merits of projects at different times. We believe that the Barrie North project is a good project because it meets the requirements of the ministry for consolidation, which means reducing pupil places overall, which end up as a result of the closure of Barrie Central, but also taking care of facility condition index well into the future at a school that is sustainable to the population that we believe is best for programming and best for students.
Thank you. Next speaker on my list is Trustee Locke.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you, I just would like to comment that approximately 4 years ago, I was in the audience, and the capital plan was approved by the former board, and I had no issues as a trustee-elect because I knew that it pretty well is a living document. Education changes, our buildings change, the world changes. And I do not see or understand why, at this time, it would be questioned as to why we wouldn't continue on with all the difficult work. I was elected to work for 4 years, and I intend to fully work for the 4 years. And 4 years ago, the capital plan passed with no question as to whether or not the new board should have the opportunity. And as a new trustee, I was actually glad for it.
Thank you. Any other speakers at this point in time? Trustee Smith, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wanted to also clarify the process whereby the public has input into the capital plan. My understanding has always been that we present the capital plan at a business and facility meeting in month A. We have a board meeting, but do not bring the capital plan to that board. We allow for a time for the public to actually be able to look at it and evaluate it and provide feedback to us. And then on month B at the board meeting, and it could, I suppose, be month C, but there is a period of time to allow for dissemination of the information. As we know, this package is only on the board website yesterday or Monday. So the fact that it hasn't been reviewed and analyzed well or thoroughly has an impact on whether people can provide input. So could you clarify the timelines that are normally anticipated for capital plan information being assessed by the public and allowing for public consultation or public input into the board?
Superintendent Dance, please.
Thank you, and through you, Chair Lloyd. Certainly the intended process is to continue as what we have done in previous years, which is to bring forward elements of the capital plan month by month. As trustees recognize, the capital plan has grown in its scope over the course of the last several years, including elements such as childcare, which has been new since the advent of FDK, and certainly other aspects such as energy management. Those are all elements that we intend to bring forward month by month. At this time, what we're bringing forward is a capital priorities list that will hopefully meet the needs of the ministry if it makes the call in the short term. And as mentioned in the report, if we receive the school consolidation funding through BOA for the 2 projects that are included here, then we would not have those submitted as capital priorities. But it's prudent on our part, we believe, to have those 2 projects included both as SCC funding opportunities and also as a capital priority, so that the ministry understands the import that we put against these projects. We recognize the need for some opportunity to complete the processes that have taken place through the ARCs in both locations, and this certainly helps us meet that need. I have to emphasize that the BOA memo came to us in August, and our response had to be a complete business case by October 15th. We recognize the need for consultation. That is what is intended as the next full capital plan comes forward, but it may also count in the future if the ministry is going to have a different cycle to this. We may be backing up our processes. That does not mean we won't continue to consult with the public, but it will certainly give the opportunity for trustees to go out to the communities and ask people what they would like to see in capital plans. We'll move forward on that basis.
Follow-up, Krista Smith, and then we'll move on to another speaker.
Yep, and I just want to say thank you very much for that information. And, but I do believe that it's very difficult to consult with people about what should happen to their students in the community after you've already sent in a business case determining what should happen to the students in the community. And to me, I don't think consultation is after the fact, and this is what's got me very concerned about this issue. I would like to request a reporter vote on this motion.
Thank you. And Trustee Smith, you should direct your concerns to the ministry, because we have to march to their drum. They don't march to our drum, unfortunately, and if they ask for the call, I just believe we should be missing the opportunity to secure capital funding. So the next speaker is Trustee Armstrong.
Thank you. Thank you to Superintendent Dance. I just want to ask about the appendix under the proposed ADE Objection 2016 proposed. I'll just look at the page now. Appendix A, page 3. The issue of modernization. You mentioned that there are no proposed changes to Eastview Secondary School or Bear Creek Secondary School. The current projected rules below reflect the proposed solution in regards to, I guess, the balancing of the student population for Barrie North and down in the new Barrie South Secondary School, South Secondary School. My concern is Eastview. It's not that modern, and I'm just wondering, is that coming? Will be coming in the future in the next few years? Because I would think that they are due for some maybe not additions, but facility improvements.
Superintendent Dance, please.
Thank you. Through you, Chair Lloyd, Vice Chair Armstrong. Certainly, it's recognized that all of our facilities have different needs at different times. Eastview is, as you mentioned, a school of a certain vintage. It is also one that we do not believe, because it would not be impacted by the students being relocated, it would not qualify for funding in this situation. We face the same situation at Innisdale Secondary School, which is a heavily loaded school at this time, and its facility condition index is rising because of the amount of load on it. That is intended to be rectified to a certain extent by the development of the new South Barrie Secondary School. But it is one that we recognize in the ministry in our conversations when we refer to these issues, such as you're saying, they ask us to consider renewal funding and other avenues of funding rather than a consolidation funding such as this, or even capital priorities. Capital priorities for the ministry, they look at growth, they look at consolidation, they look at utilization. And those are the three premises on which they're basing their approval for capital priorities. So you can see from what has taken place in the last couple of years, especially this year with funding for the schools such as Alcona South, a growth case. Victoria Harbour has been a consolidation and utilization case. And the other element that you'll see the next Business and Facilities Committee meeting about Archery at Cumberland Beach is a consolidation. So those are all aspects that fall into how we make the business case and find the available funds. The ministry does say in the case of an Eastview, unless it was receiving students, that it would not qualify.
Follow-up, Mr. Armstrong?
Well, that follows on the heels of my next comment, because when I look at Alliston, Banty. I mean, where does that qualify? That school, the wear and tear with that population of that school is astounding to me that they wouldn't be receiving at some point a new high school. Under all these qualifications, Banty will never be rebuilt until I guess it gets too prohibitive to repair. But it's just very frustrating that that school and that population and the relief for that growth, nowhere in this, and maybe when you meet with the ministry, ask them about that sort of issue. Because I'm really concerned about the growth in Alliston and how it will reflect. And maybe that's in the next round. But frankly, you know, that small community, to have that school busting at the seams, it seems very, very strange that they would not be receiving something in improvement or reconstruction.
Director Wallace, please.
To you, Madam Chair. That is why that it has been so much appreciated from this board that through our check renewal programs, that by taking budgeted money, we've been able, though, in schools like Banting, be able to renew some of the technology programs within the school, and that has given them greater programming opportunities to be able to offer to those students. Some of the facilities that some of our new schools have been able to build, we've now been through the budgeting process for program renewal in the technology program been able to do that. So that's how we've been able as a board, because the criteria for getting capital funds has not allowed us through that avenue. Then through our budgeting process, through the check renewal, then we've been able to go through all of our schools and start to, not look at all the programs, but start to look at the major programs in each one of the secondary schools and renew that programming opportunity for the students. It doesn't get at the whole school, but it certainly gets at parts of the school in order to renew that.
One follow-up.
Notwithstanding, I appreciate that the school is receiving the funding in technology, but when you look at the town, and you look at the growth, and you look at the school site, it's very unfair that, you know, I would say in the next 10 years, it is going to be permanent to repair at some point. It is just, it's getting to that point. I believe that, as I said, the immense population pressures on that school, which is a rural school, compared to an urban downtown school, it's going to be a urban area. So really, I know we're talking, I would hope we could talk about a 5-year plan, because that one to me is a priority I think we have to examine the next few years. So, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other? Trustee Mayne, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And just a comment about this funding that came through. I know it was very swift, like it came to this in August. It was mentioned in the September board. They had to get it in by October 15th. I think this is, I know the central issue is very emotional for everybody, but I do see this as a possible, if the ministry gives us this money. This is a huge gift. It is a gift. This is special funding that can potentially, it's a win for Central. Because the ministry has repeatedly turned Central down, this, and the kind of guidelines that they set, this Central falls right into that slot, as well as so does North, them together. Like, it is a perfect fit. So it is a gift. It aligns well. I'm hoping, it seems like it's perfect. So I'm hoping that we'll hear quickly back from them, and it's a gift. I think it's a positive. It's a win-win situation for the students.
Thank you. Any other comments? I think, too, it's very important to stress that we have other schools that are in dire need of capital funding. Elmvale has been on that list for a long time, and we need focused attention on securing funding for Elmvale. I think we need to recognize that Midland and Penetang have gone through an arc, and we've done a consolidation up there, and Penetang will be closing. And I believe as a board, we have to do everything we possibly can to maximize the opportunities to secure capital funding. We're competing, there's 72 boards in this province, and we need to have our ducks in a row and get ourselves ready to attempt to secure this funding. So, I realize that that there are some that would rather us wait, but I think we could cost us significantly as a board. So I think we need to move forward with this. So at this point in time, are there any other questions or comments? Okay, there is a recommendation contained within this report that the Business and Facilities Standing Committee recommend that the board approve the capital plan projects as set out in report number BFD2 2014 Capital Priority Project List, Consolidation, Efficiency, and Modernization dated November 5th, 2014. Is there a mover? Trustee Locke, seconder, Trustee Ley. When we did ask for recorded vote.
So a recorded vote has been requested on the motion on the table. So at this point, I'd ask all those in favor of the motion to please stand. Trustee Mayne, Trustee Locke, Trustee Ley, Trustee Williams, Trustee Lloyd, Trustee Armstrong, Trustee Beacock. So all those opposed, please stand. Trustee Smith.
Okay, I'd just like to remind the audience it is a meeting, so please refrain from clapping further. This takes us to item number 3, which is items for decision, the Southeast Barrie Elementary Attendance Area Review, and that is Superintendent Dance, please.
Thank you, and through you, Chair Lloyd, before trustees tonight is a short report regarding the the attendance area review scheduled to take place amongst the Southeast Barrie elementary schools. Those include Algonquin Ridge Elementary School, Sickanack Public School, Hughes Creek Public School, Sunny Grade Public School, Warren Public School, Willow Landing Elementary School. The intent of this report is to formally request that Hyde Park, which is a contiguous attendance area to this area, also be included in this attendance area review, because upon further analysis, we see there may be an impact on this with this attendance area review, which is yet to commence, but we want to be proactive and to have it added to the roster of schools involved so that that community may be informed that they may be involved as well.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there questions with respect to this report or the recommendation? Okay, seeing none, there is a recommendation in the report that the Business and Facilities Standing Committee recommend that the board approve that Hyde Park Public School be included in the Southeast Barrie Elementary Attendance Area Review as set out in report number BFD3 Southeast Barrie Elementary Attendance Area Review 2014-2015 school year dated November 5th, 2014. Is there a mover for that recommendation? Thank you. Trustee Williams, seconder for that. Okay, Trustee Armstrong. I will call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. So that concludes our items for decision this evening. We would move on to items for information, but at this point in time, I will take a motion that we take a 10-minute break. Trustee Locke, thank you. Seconder, Trustee Mayne, all those in favor? Okay, thank you. So we will resume at 7:40, please. Under items for information, the first information item tonight is the attendance area change. Abstaining Collegiate Institute, Collingwood Collegiate Institute, Nottawasaga and Creemore Public School, Nottawa Elementary School, and Worsley Elementary School. Superintendent Dance, please.
Thank you, and through you, Chair Lloyd. Before trustees tonight is an informational report regarding minor attendance changes in the area of Clearview Township, with specific reference to the schools aforementioned by you in the title. These are relatively small areas. They align following the closure of Sale Central Elementary Schools. They end up aligning the elementary schools and the secondary school boundaries. As you can see from the map that's attached, they are only impacting students who are on those roads. Those are the students already in attendance at the schools, and in effect, the terminology from the planning department of flipping the line in the attendance area is one that will only impact the students going forward. There are no other students in the system that will be impacted at this time, and going with this movement, the attendance areas will be rationalized or cleaned up considerably.
Thank you, Superintendent Dance. This is a item for information, so there's no recommendations in the report. Do we have any questions or comments for Superintendent Dance? Okay, seeing none, we move on to item number 2, attendance area change at Barrie North Collegiate and Bear Creek Secondary School. Superintendent Dance, please.
Thank you, and through you, Chair Lloyd. Before trustees is another informational report regarding an attendance area change. This was referenced earlier in this meeting, but also in previous situations with regard to the Black Creek subdivision, which is a subdivision just to the north side of Snow Valley Road. It's an extension of a series of subdivisions along that road. In this case, it has 102 units. It is an area that has previously been moved over into the Portage View attendance area, and in order to align the two elementary and secondary catchment areas, this report outlines the changeover of that attendance area with students impacted to move towards Bear Creek as opposed to Barrie North. This is what we attempt to do with situations so that the students going to the same school are from a certain feeder school go to the same feeder school so they're not split. In this case, because the elementary population in this subdivision would be directed towards Portage View, then they would also move on with their classmates from Portage View as per the boundaries for Portage View into Bear Creek.
Thank you. This also is an item for information. Any questions or comments from trustees at this point in time? Trustee Beacock, please.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Through you, just to follow up the fact that we did actually meet on one or more occasions with the developers of this subdivision, and the challenge was that the Minnesota Central Public School is closed out of attendance area because of the name that nobody else likes to hear around the table, and that is septic systems. The reality is that the system at Minnesota will not take any more capacity, and therefore, while it's only one street away, we had to send those kids somewhere else because there was no room and no availability at Minnesota Central. So we did have very good conversations with the builders, with the developers, and in the end, we all agreed that that was the thing that we needed to do, and therefore, as Superintendent Dan said, what this is doing is just cleaning up the ability for those students that are now moving to Portage View to be able to continue on to their secondary school with the kids that they're in the classes with. So thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was just wondering, with respect to Nottawasaga Pines, why that was not considered as an alternate because of location and whether it was in fact considered.
Superintendent Dance, please.
Thank you, and through you, Chair Lloyd, to Trustee Smith. The consideration of Nottawasaga Pines would mean that students living in the Snow Valley area would have to go to Angus for secondary school. That would mean they would cross over top of the Bear Creek area in order to get there. It's more efficient and more effective and better for families if they're moving towards the same location as their classmates in elementary school. And Nottawasaga Pines would be at quite a distance and would put a transportation burden just from this subdivision to go there. The closest area for Nottawasaga Pines is, I believe, about 15 kilometers to the west from this location.
Follow-up, Trustee Smith?
Yeah, and the reason I did ask that question is because I know it's a newer school and it actually has, I believe still, or at least it did before, have that excess capacity. What I'm seeing though is when we look at all these maps, I think we're starting to have like, multicolored, this section here goes here, this section here, we really need to actually look at the boundaries as far as blocks, because I think once we start adding all the jumps that are taking place now, it gets very confusing for families and students. Anyway, that's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions with respect to this report? Seeing none, that takes us to item number 3, attendance area review status, Alliston Union Public School and Cookstown Central Public School. Superintendent Dan, please.
Thank you, and through you, Chair Lloyd. Before trustees tonight is a report report referring to an attendance area review that was part of the capital plan 2013. We were looking to undertake an attendance area review with regards to the treetops area just to the east of the Nottowasagi Inn. That is an area we were looking at relocating to Alliston Union Public School, simply because of the proximity and because of the eventual need for an elementary school has been referenced already tonight with the capital priorities list. What we are seeking through this report is to inform trustees that we are putting this attendance area into abeyance, in fact not continuing with it, because due to a couple of factors. One is the continued growth of Alliston Union Public School, where if we were to move towards this attendance area review, we would be moving students from the treetops area, which is a growth area. We, at one point last year during the capital plan, we identified 11 students. It's already grown to 40 students. And we also do not want to have a situation where we are moving students twice. This would be an area, as outlined in the map, that would become part of the attendance area, we believe, for the new East Alliston Public School. So rather than move families twice, we would look at moving them once, and this would be one that we would grow into. In addition, the town of Innisfil has also extended its capacity in the community of Cookstown, so we can see that Cookstown could continue to, in the foreseeable future, as we move forward before the attendance area for a new capital priority in Alliston, we would be able to have those students in location there in a stable situation until further time.
Thank you very much. Questions or comments from trustees? Okay, seeing none, that takes us to item number 4, Barrie Central Collegiate Institute Contingency Plan. Superintendent Dan Strunk.
Thank you. And through you, Chair Lloyd, before trustees tonight is an information report that tries to describe the situation with regards to the status of the Barrie Central mechanical heating plant. There have been considerable considerations to this report from a variety of areas of our board staff, from school staff, superintendents, to maintenance staff, to planning staff, and certainly also with regard to how things operate at the school, a variety of other sources. At this point, and as mentioned in this report, in December 2010, and I believe it was an item of conversation at this table, if not a report, a contingency plan was discussed because of the what we saw as being the imminent failure of the Barrie Central mechanical heating plant. This past year, we saw part of the mechanical cooling plant go down. It is a location that requires consistent monitoring and consistent service calls to maintain. It is one that we have simplified to a certain extent by calling it boilers. It is not just boilers, it is the full mechanical heating plant. In fact, one of the more critical elements is the piping that goes into those boilers. The boilers have a built-in redundancy, which means that if one goes down, we can move to the other because there are two on location. But it also means that these are service calls that could take place. So looking towards the future, we believe it was important that we have a contingency plan in case something takes place. But as is referenced in this report, it is our preferred situation that students remain at Barrie Central until the closure on June 30th, 2016, at which time they could be located. In the meantime, we also wanted to make sure that trustees understood how this could take place, and that we had some planning taking place already. Contact has been made with the Ministry of Education with regard to an alternative time plan. The director would be involved if there's a temporary closure, but it's also one that if it extends very long, we need to be able to move forward on this. One of the key elements in here is as was mentioned before, was the boilers, and the previous version of this was the reference to a portable boiler. It is one situation that certainly we could undertake, but we do not necessarily need to undertake until we get to that point. And so the contingency planning, as is outlined in this report, tries to take into account of most of the scenarios that could take place. That does not mean that we will have all of them covered, but it certainly outlines through the maintenance staff, design and construction staff, planning staff, as well as the academic staff, that we are looking towards being ready to move if the
certainly happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Trustee Mayne, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you. Thank you very much for this report. It's great to know that there has been a great thought with the contingency plan, just in case. I remember back, it's probably been a couple of years now, and we were talking about these boilers, if we had to rent portable boilers, the cost of that. Do you remember the cost of that? Is it in there? Apologize. Yeah, $15,000 a month rental charge. And with that, is that? Yeah, I apologize, I didn't see that in there. I remember that being quite substantial. So with us coming into hopefully not a winter like we had last year, it's nice to know that this plan is in place.
Trustee Ley, please, and then Trustee Locke.
Thank you, Chair. Through you to Superintendent Dance. I'm referring to page 2 of the report, where we talk about the 2 possibilities for boiler replacements. The second option, it indicates that the estimated time to install would be 2 to 3 weeks, but I don't see anywhere in the first option where it indicates what the time frame would be.
Thank you, and through you, Chair Lloyd, to Trustee Ley, certainly that would be a different situation, because then it would be a situation where we'd have to remove the roof and be able to take the boiler out and then replace it with another boiler dropping down. And staff in reviewing this situation would be one where we would probably err towards the second one, which would be a portable boiler. And it's not just the access to a portable boiler, it's also the connection of the portable boiler to the piping where the existing boilers are. So in a contingency plan such as this, certainly the analysis of staff is that the acquisition and use of a portable boiler would be the preferred location, simply because the timelines would be shorter. It would be an extensive project to be able to take out a boiler and put another boiler in. And as is referenced in this report, asbestos is an area that's within this building is considerable concern, and it will always be a matter that we have to deal with. So if a catastrophic failure takes place, that also has to be at the front of mind. That would mean the closure of the school while construction took place of any nature, and then be able to move back in afterwards.
And in the event of a situation like you just referenced, you would have no understanding at this point of the time frame that would involve, or would you?
And again.
Through Chair Lloyd to Trustee Ley, no, I don't have the exact timeline.
Okay, Trustee Locke, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you to Superintendent Dance, which sort of follows up on Trustee Ley's question. So if we took the first contingency option, we're talking about asbestos going through the roof, what would we do with the students for that length of time while that was being installed?
Thank you, and through you, Chair Lloyd to Trustee Locke, that would be a situation where we'd have to consider the length of time, be able to estimate how long the students would be out, and it could be a situation where the students would return to Barrie Central after repairs are effected, or as referenced in this report, temporary relocation to Barrie North. One of the key things that we have to keep in mind with, and this is certainly something that working with Superintendent Samus and certainly the principals of both Barrie North and Barrie Central, is the importance of making sure that students are able to continue to progress towards credits. That is one of the aspects as to why the schedule has been built the way it is, because it provides temporary relocation with the also ensuring the interest of the students being able to continue towards their graduation requirements, whether they're in grade 9 or grade 12, it's still, the requirement is 110 hours for a credit. And so that has to be scheduled hours. If a temporary relocation is needed, this would fit that situation. That does not take into account how much longer we would need to do. We have to work with the Ministry of Education in order to find that solution as we go forward into a longer term relocation.
Thank you. Trustee Smith, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. When I was reading the contingency plan, one of the things that struck me was that there was a very large assumption within the document, and that was that, in fact, there was going to be some place to send these school children, that the government was, in fact, going to give the $20 million. Because, in fact, I think there should be a contingency plan based upon the fact that the government may not give the $20 million, and then what do you do with all these children? And what do you do if the South Barrie School doesn't end up being built till 2018 because we can't buy the land and we can't build the school and we don't get all the things we need in place? So I'm a little bit concerned that a contingency plan is built upon assumptions that are not even really clearly detailed, because there should be a totally other contingency plan available. So what happens if the boilers break and it's past 2016? What happens if it's 2018 and we finally get that school up and running and we don't get the money for Barrie Central to be consolidated into the other schools? Because after all, Barrie has, Simcoe County has received an awful lot of money over the years, far more than our fair share probably for the province. So can you tell me, is there a contingency plan if we don't get the money for the consolidation?
Thank you, and through you, Chair Lloyd, Trustee Smith. Contingency planning is one that, in situations such as this, and as has been referenced before, Barrie North is under capacity right now. It would be a situation where we would take a look at, pending the results of the attendance area review, the numbers of students that would be relocated. One of the key elements in this is that there is an extended French program that's located at Barrie Central, and it's one that it would be our intention that it would move completely as a group and not have to start over again and be split up into different locations. But those are elements of which, as certainly from our perspective, we're trying to go through the mechanical situation, and we will continue to come up with other scenarios as they arise. We believe that we could be ending up with more portables in different locations, if that's the case, and that would be a situation as we would move forward we would deal with. Portables are not the end solution, but I have to emphasize that the construction of South Barrie Secondary School is a totally separate business case. The students that would be moving to South Barrie Secondary School would be students, from our plans at least this time, would not be related to the Barrie Central students. It would be a different group of students who are wholly housed in the Innisdale attendance area.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Locke, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a question of clarification. The contingency plan is based on the mechanical issues at Barrie Central. Is that not correct?
Thank you. That is correct.
Do I have any other speakers? Oh, Trustee Armstrong, please.
Just a quick question. In regards to the imminent failure, because we were talking about that 2010, so we're 2014, so imminent or mechanical issues, it's at a 10-year time frame, it's hard to know. But does the weather conditions have any impact on these flows? And if we did go through a rather harsh winter last year, so if we can all pray for a mild winter, would that be helpful? Or does it really matter? I guess the other part is the operating or stationary operating engineer. Is there one on call? I don't think we employ one, but are they hard to get? I guess the issue is to keep the boilers, I guess I suspect they're in good working condition as of today, and hopefully, they just keep going. We don't have to deal with this situation. It's really based on the operations of those two boiler units.
Superintendent Dan.
Thank you. And through you, Chair Lloyd, Trustee Armstrong. Very good question. In fact, it's probably better for the boilers to have cold weather, simply because they're in operation. We have had a number of incidents, specifically earlier this week, where one boiler had to be, the heat had to be switched over from one to the other. That is the positive situation with regard to having two boilers. As is mentioned in the report, there's built-in redundancy. Our challenge is not necessarily, as I've said before, and I've said tonight, I believe, it's not just the boilers, it's the connecting links, which are the pipes. If pipes were to burst near to where the boilers are, that would create a catastrophic failure for us, more so than the boilers. At this point, there is considerable manpower being put into maintaining these. We do not need a stationary engineer because of the rating of these two boilers, but it's one that, because if, and trustees from around the table will recall from Associate Director McCauley was part of the conversation, I believe, the establishment of the burner unit on the boiler being moved over from one boiler to the other was a factor. And so we think it's a better situation. And cold weather, in fact, shows us when it's going to work and not work. As I mentioned earlier this week, we did have one go down. And so we were able to switch over to the other. Parts have been ordered for the boiler that is not working at this point, but we did not see substantial loss of heat over a longer period of time is what would happen if it was the whole system going down. Redundancy works for our benefit, and cold weather, knowing it's running, once it's up and going, it's good news.
Director Walsh, please, and then Trustee Ley.
To you, Chair. I didn't want to lose, though, the comment about a contingency plan about if we didn't get the funding. And most certainly as a board and as a staff, we will most certainly, we're very helpful, fingers crossed, as we always are when we put in our business cases. We feel they've been very strong. We give them the information they're looking for, and we, as a result, I believe, have been very successful with the dollars that this board has received. However, if we don't get the dollars, then we most certainly would come back to this board with, then now what? And so then another plan would come forward to explain with trustees and explain to the communities then what would be other alternatives to this. So I didn't want to lose that piece because absolutely that's what we would have to then do. But we're very hopeful and we believe that we will know sooner rather than later about where these dollars will go. But we never know when they're going to finally announce. But we know we got it in on time, we've got a strong business case, and so we'll just have to wait and see.
Thank you. And Trustee Ley, please.
Thank you, Chair. And through you to Superintendent Diaz. I have read this report twice, and I just skimmed it a third time, and I see no references that would directly relate to the contingency plan and funding that we're hoping to get. Can you point out to me where in the report it indicates that that funding is part of this report?
Thank you. And through you, Chair Lloyd and Trustee Ley, it's not referred to. This is certainly planning on our basis as a facility, and certainly with the academic staff, Superintendent Sandus and the principals of 2 schools, is certainly looking for accommodations for those students. It's a separate issue.
Thank you very much, because I was confused when I saw some of the options that you listed, and I didn't believe that you would list some of these options if you were basing this on funding that you felt was coming forward. So I was confused, but I appreciate the clarification. Thank you.
And Trustee Smith?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to the Director for clarifying that we don't have a contingency plan for if we don't get the money for Barrie North, because it's really important, because the contingency plan for the plant only goes out 2 years, and if we don't get a $20 million piece of cash, we need a bigger contingency plan that deals with what we do with the students, because in fact the students are the key here. The students are what we're here for, and a plan that deals with just the boilers is not the whole and all of everything. In fact, it's the students, and the Director kindly explained that they will be providing a contingency plan for what to do if they don't get the money. I think it would be a very good idea to actually produce it now, because contingency plans are supposed to be there just in case. And I think it'd be very valuable to the public to see what the contingency plan is, should there be no money, and where will it be.
Dr. Walton?
To you, Chair. With all due respect, we would not want to confuse our population and parents regarding what plans we are putting forward. So I believe this is a short turnaround of whether we will get these dollars or not. And therefore, I think that in this short span of time, we're putting forward a plan that is demonstrating that as a staff, we are very much taking into consideration what would happen. And certainly I would share with you as a director, I don't want to get this phone call at 1 o'clock in the morning finding out that we have boilers down and no heat in the school without a plan. So that's paramount to our students to know what would happen, and to our parents in both of these schools, to know these are the possibilities. So this is why this is here right now. But absolutely, and I believe this staff has demonstrated to this table over and over again, we do have plans in place. And let me assure you that, for example, Barrie North has always been on, used to be on a 5-period schedule all the time. It used to have more students that are currently in that building. And so there are other alternatives that we can turn to. We still have secondary schools in our system that do have 5-period days, 5 periods in their day. So there is opportunities for us to work with the staff, work with the community to come up with that plan. But that plan we will have in place, I assure you. But I believe right now we're extremely hopeful that we will have those dollars in order for us then to send that plan out to families and to our students so that they would know what that is. But I don't really want to confuse people over this very short period of time.
Thank you very much. Is there any other questions on this at this point in time? Okay, so that moves us on to items number 5, which is Barrie Central and Prince of Wales property options for use. And that is Superintendent Sloan this time. Thank you.
Thank you, and through you, Chair Lloyd. Trustees will recall that at the October 1st Business and Facilities meeting, the report indicated that staff would be bringing to a future Business and Facilities Standing Committee potential options for the future continued use of Barrie Central Collegiate Institute and Prince of Wales properties or the disposition. So in front of you tonight is that report with the options, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, and thank you for bringing this information because we had requested it, so that's important. Questions or comments from trustees at this point in time? Trustee Armstrong.
Just for clarification, you present the options, but what I'm trying to find out is the time frame when those options have to be decided upon. It's certainly not now, but I'm just wondering, are we talking 2015 or early 2015, late 2015? So just the time frame of when those options would be decided upon.
Superintendent Sloan, please.
Thank you, and through the chair to Vice Chair this evening, Armstrong. There's no time limit implied here. In fact, as option A suggests, you could sit on it for quite some time.
Thank you. So in other words, the Board of Trustees can set the timeframes for this.
To you, Chair Lloyd, yes.
Thank you. Trustee Smith?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was just wondering if Superintendent Sloan might explain the process of actually how one sells property, just because it's, I think, of interest to a lot of people and it's not necessarily clear, or different superintendent. Thank you.
And to whom it's offered to in the order it's offered.
Thank you. That's a good question. Superintendent Jeff, please.
Thank you, Chair Lloyd, and through you. Ontario Regulation 44498 clearly specifies the process for disposition of property. And under that disposition process, we'd be first required to offer it to what I often refer to as a preferred list, and that's a list of 12 or 15 public sector entities that would, if they're interested in purchasing any property that was being disposed of by the board, would have to provide notice to the board within 90 days. In the event that we did not receive an entity off that preferred list or an offer of purchase off that preferred list, then we would certainly go to open market, so to speak. So I do have the preferred list in front of me if you really want to know who's on it. Certainly includes the municipal. There is a priority order, but included on that list are other boards, other school boards, separate school boards, French boards, college. If there is a college in the municipality, in our case there is with Georgian. Also on the list is university that has its home office closest to the property. in this case, York University, in the event of Barrie Central or Prince of Wales. There's some others. There's upper tier municipalities. The city of Barrie would be on the list. And they are in priority order. So if we receive an offer from more than one of the entities on the list, we're required to entertain the offer of purchase from the entity that is higher up in the priority listing. In the event within 30 days we can't get a deal done with that potential buyer, then we would be eligible to move on to anybody else further down on the list that did put in an offer of purchase.
Thank you. Just for clarification, can you tell me how the value of the land is determined, or what the price is? Because I know I often give this information in the public as to how that's determined. So can you just clarify that, please?
Certainly, through you, Chair Lloyd. So in the event that somebody were to offer us $1, we have an appraised value on the properties. We would then have 30 days to sit down and try to negotiate a deal that was acceptable to both parties in terms of the sale price. In the event that we're unable to do that within the 30-day period, and barring binding arbitration on such an arrangement, we would certainly have the opportunity to move on to, as I suggest, another entity that may be on that preferred list, or in the event there wasn't another entity, then to move to open market.
And I think Trustee Mayne, you had a question?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, Superintendent Jess. Can you just clarify what you said? There's a list and there's a priority. So say 2 people offered us, and you said the preference would be given to who was higher on the list, not that it wouldn't necessarily be the person who gave us the highest offer.
And through you, Chair Lloyd, in terms of the negotiations, we would be required to negotiate first with the entity that is higher up on the preferred priority list. In the event we were unable to secure a deal, as I say, within 30 days, then we would certainly have the option of moving down and selecting or starting to negotiate with the entity that is next highest on the list. In the event we have a third, if we can't get a deal with number 2, we would then have the opportunity to move after 30 days to the third entity that, in terms of the priority.
Trustee Mayne, please.
Thank you. Just a follow-up to that then. So in this priority list, you have the first group that, before it goes to the public, would we have a right to at least try to sell? And if we're not finding we're not getting what we need, or not getting fair value or whatever, can we then, okay, we're not ready to sell? Do we have that option before, or does it automatically have to go to the public?
Superintendent Jess, please.
Thank you. Through you, Chair Lloyd. The normal process would be that it would go to open market, and we would try to get a deal. If we weren't able to get one off of the preferred priority list, then it would go to open market. And but at any point in time, there's no requirement for the board to accept any deal. Normally we would if we got something that was certainly in the fair market value range, and we would look to our appraisals in order to help guide that decision.
And Trustee Ley, please.
Thank you, Chair Lloyd. Through you, I think to Superintendent Jess. I received a phone call in the last week or so indicating that the person had acknowledged that if we were to sell the property, that it would be, that there's a law that says we would have to offer it to another school board for $1 maximum. Can you clarify that?
Superintendent Jess, please.
Thank you. Through you, Chair Lloyd, I'm not aware of that being the circumstance, and I just looked to Manager Few in the crowd, and he gave me the proverbial shake of the head, so I'm not aware, and nowhere in 44498 is that referenced, and I suspect if that were the case, it would certainly be included in that Ontario regulation.
Follow-up, Trustee Knight?
Actually, my second question. Can you explain to me, I know one year when I sat here, I think we were given, we had about $7 million for maintenance for all of our schools, like regular maintenance. Can you tell me what amount of money would be allocated to any school that is closed? Does the ministry have a different amount of money that you can maintain that school with, or how do we maintain a school once it's closed? Is there funds available that are specific to that?
Superintendent Dance, please.
Thank you, and through you, Chair Lloyd, Trustee Ley. In the case of schools that are closed, we maintain those out of operating funds. So it's not a renewal basis. So the recently closed Alliston Union Public School is being maintained at a subsistence level. Pipes are closed off. Heating is a basic level, and we pay those bills through our regular operating funds. That's an example of one, but it's also one where certainly it becomes, depending on the size of the property, it also becomes a challenge to continue to put those funds out for a closed building.
So if I understand correctly, we would be taking that out of our regular maintenance money, and that would be money that would potentially be used for a school that has students in it versus a school that's empty.
Correct.
Thank you very much.
Okay, and Trustee Locke, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Based on the discussion this evening and the fact that Prince of Wales was closed as of June 30th, 2011, and that the motion to close Barrie Central was made in 2011, I have 4 motions that I would like to bring to the table. 2 dealing with Barrie Central Collegiate, and 2 dealing with Prince of Wales Public School. And I do understand that they could be closed items, but I believe in our bylaws it says may go into closed, so I would just like your guidance.
Let me just 2 seconds. Okay, so yeah, okay, so under section 2 of our bylaws with respect to committee meetings in closed session, pursuant to section 207(2) of the Education Act and the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act, the meeting of any committee of the board, including a committee of the whole board, may be closed to the public when the subject matter under consideration involves the security of the property of the board, the disclosure of intimate personal financial information in respect of any individual, including a member of the board or committee, an employee or prospective employee of the board, a student, or a person responsible for the care, custody of the student or a member of the public, the acquisition or disposal of the school site, decisions in respect of negotiations with employees of the board, and litigation affecting the board. So I do believe you're right. It doesn't have to be a closed session. So, I mean, at this point in time, if you want to move the motions, and then if people feel that we should be going into closed session, I think we can entertain that motion, or if people are moving forward, we could do it in public.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, motion number 1, that the Business and Facilities Standing Committee recommend that the board declare the Barrie Central Collegiate Institute secondary school site effective July 1st, 2016, will no longer be required for the purposes of the board dated November 5th, 2014. Motion number 2, that the Business and Facilities Standing Committee recommend that the board approve the disposition of the Barrie Central Collegiate Institute secondary school site in accordance with Ontario Regulation 444-98, with the closing date of the sale to take place after July 1st, 2016, dated November 5th, 2014. Prince of Wales Public School. Motion number 1, that the Business and Facilities Standing Committee recommend that the board declare the Prince of Wales Public School site will no longer be required for the purposes of the board dated November 5th, 2014. And number 2, that the Business and Facilities Standing Committee recommend that the board approve the disposition of the Prince of Wales Public School site in accordance with Ontario Regulation 444/98, dated November 5th, 2014.
Thank you. Can you please pass those motions forward? is there a seconder for these motions? Trustee Ley. So the motions are on the table at this point in time. They've been moved and they have been seconded. Our bylaws permit us to move forward in open session. If people are comfortable doing so, I'm quite prepared to move forward in open session. Okay, I see no one wanting to move at this time, that we go into close. So we do have motions on the table, so we will entertain questions from trustees or discussion with respect to these motions. And would you like to speak to the motions, Trustee Locke, as you move them?
I would. The decisions were made through our processes in 2011. We have a lot of schools that need repairs. We have a lot of schools that need supplies. And I just do not see the reason for holding on to these properties when our students need this money now.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions with respect to these motions? Trustee Smith?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I may not be the only one in the room that's gobsmacked. We have a history of having schools that are closed, and then we sell off the properties. We do not do it usually until after the children have actually left the school. We do that because there is, in fact, a potential for things not to go perfectly. And one of the problems I guess I'm having with this extraordinary set of motions is that it seems to me a bit like closing the barn door and triple bolting it, because we're going to make sure Barrie North gets that money and those kids go to Barrie North. And I have a real problem with this. I think if the idea is good, if the government supports it, and there is funding, that it will take place. You don't have to sell the property out from underneath the children's feet. So I would like to know from the director, have we ever sold the property or put the property up for sale on a property where school was still operational at the time the property went up for sale?
Excuse me, I'm pretty close, and to you, Madam Chair, I'm looking to David Few, who has institutional memory, to ask me to go back. I'm not aware of the situation. You'd have to check, but I'm not aware of the situation.
Okay, Trustee Mayne? Oh,
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, Madam Director, I think before we close the school and then sell off the land, it would probably be a good idea to have a report from the actual facilities department on the topic, given that we are not all experts at facilities and property management. And that would also allow the public to have some information and opportunities too to provide input. Would it be possible for the director to ask for a report from the facilities department on the potential of site?
To you, Madam Chair, I'm not quite sure what this report would be on. I'm a little confused what you're asking for within this report. I think that this table has shared the facility issues that surround the building. We have come forward with the information through an accommodation review regarding the situation. So please help clarify for me, what would you expect to see in this report that you feel you would need?
May I respond?
Yep.
I would like to see a report that clarifies the board's position and recommendation of staff as to the appropriateness of selling the property at a time when there are still students in the property, when in fact we could need the property going into 2016, 2017, 2018, and potentially not get the funding even from the Barrie North consolidation project.
So I guess what I'm asking for is the same kind of report we've gotten historically whenever one of these projects took place. And it comes to, I think of things like the Wyville area and some of the Dunfreen area. Dunfreen still has a newspaper, for goodness sake. You know, there's a lot of properties we own. So we've always held on to them, so I'd like to know why this is different. And I'd like a proper report on the topic.
Superintendent Dance, please.
Thank you. Through you, Chair Lloyd, to Trustee Smith. The intent would be, I believe at this point, to have a sale conditional upon closure at a certain date. The building may be sold, but the sale would not be completed until that future date is set out by the determination of the trustees. The other aspect that may be interesting for trustees is the level of interest in the properties. We believe there is a level of interest in properties that is significant. In the case that you referenced, Trustee Smith, Dunfreen, it is in use. It is in use as a maintenance depot for our board. The same is true with Tecumseh North. The same is true with Washington Pines. There are facilities that, as you know, through the capital planning process, we've made surplus property an area for ourselves to be able to help fund projects, and that those funds have been put against projects on a number of occasions where we've been able to sell our properties. The Morning Annex is a good example of that recently, that brought a good deal of money into the board that helped fund projects. So those are all aspects that certainly the interest of in this property is one that we believe is there, that may be at the zenith at this point.
Thank you. Moving on my speakers list, Trustee Mayne, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted a clarification because I don't think it said sell it out from underneath their feet right now. I think it said like once the date comes, and which we would have the information, she would come by then. I just wanted to clarify that, for sure that said that in the motion.
Yeah, and I think Superintendent Dance addressed that by saying the sale would be conditional upon the closure of the school. The school would not be closed, the deal would not happen until the school was actually closed.
Can I just follow up? Yeah, so my comment to that would be, so it wouldn't necessarily be putting the cart before the horse because they say strike while the iron's hot. If there's interested proponents, which we know there are, I would be worried that come that date, have they moved on? And then we can't sell. That would be a concern for me at this point.
Thank you. Trustee Locke.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I just wanted to confirm that the motion for Barrie Central is dated for after closure, and the motion to close in June 2016 passed in May 2011. And the motion for Prince of Wales, the Prince of Wales has been closed as of June 30th, 2011. So none of my motions state that I'm going to kick the kids to the street to sell this. Both of them are very dated differently and purposefully.
Thank you. And Trustee Armstrong, I believe you're next.
Thank you. I would agree that we have a report talking about the options. We all know the options about school sites when there are school closures, typically elementary schools. The board has not closed a secondary school up until, two secondary schools, up until, or motions to close. Historically, I can't think of when that happened. I've been on the board for 16 years, so. I guess I'm concerned in that I agree that the end result at some point in time will come if when closures happen, but it's highly unusual that the trustees have put this type of recommendation on the table. Because typically it's something that it's a signal from our staff saying, okay, we're ready to do the work to start to get a property for sale. I'm concerned it's somewhat premature. The motion's not the end result. Obviously it's something happening in a couple of years hence. It's not affecting the students while they're in the school. But I don't really care for the timing of it or the optics of the trustees bringing this to the table. It's something that I would prefer historically, that staff bring it to as a recommendation for the trustees to consider. The end result most likely will be as these recommendations are. But I don't see November 2014's regular board meeting dealing with this. I feel that the optics are unusual. It's the end of a term, another term of board trustees is coming. 2 years before a school population leaves, that we're putting these recommendations. It's not necessarily part of the package when you do have a closure either. When a closure occurs, it's not like number 7 or 8 that the sale happens. I don't believe that's part of the package. Usually, again, and I can ask the director for her input on that, but I think it's something that the staff signals to the table that it's time to get ready for putting a property up for sale. I just don't, I'm almost inclined to put a motion to lay this on the table, because I just don't believe that this is the correct time to deal with this motion. So I don't know if the director can give me any input on that, is that something that the staff usually signals to the table, it's time to deal with disposition of property. I guess it's a question. Director Wallace.
Typically, we as a staff will bring recommendations forward. You, as a table, you asked us to bring you the options. That is what we've done this evening. You asked us what were those options. In that discussion, we were asked to list to the Board of Trustees what we felt the options were. We also, though, must recognize that each one of these situations have a slight difference to them, based on information, based on circumstances, all kinds of other variables. So, back to your statement, however, it is not typically what we would do, that each situation is very different.
Okay. Trustee Locke and then Trustee Ley.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
The report.
Options is called Options for Use and Current Status, and the following are possible options. And it may be unusual, but it needs to be done at some point.
Trustee Ley? Thank you very much. I just spent 4.5 years of my life living in Barrie Central. And I've been made well aware of the fact that the closure of Barrie Central is potentially the ruination of the downtown of the city of Barrie. Now, I live 6 blocks from Central, and I don't know if I want to live 6 blocks away from a building that sits empty in an area that isn't great to begin with. I think if we're going to give the city of Barrie any opportunity to save the downtown now that the school is going to close in 2016, I think that we have an obligation to sort of, I think Trustee Mayne said, strike when the iron is hot. I mean, we have people that are interested now. We had opportunities to sit in many meetings looking at an amazing proposal that could proceed with the Event Central. And I think that it might be a very bad mistake for us to leave this too long, because I agree with the Trustee Mayne as well. Potentially these people will lose interest. Barrie is hot now, potentially, but maybe in the future it won't be. And I think it scares me to think that we would end up being putting the city of Barrie twice in the position of ruining their downtown by closing the school, and then secondly by letting the buildings sit and rot. I think that it would be a better situation for the city to save the downtown if they could work, if somebody could work on this property and put something amazing on it, or something that would at least potentially rejuvenate that part of the city. It needs a rejuvenation desperately. Things done in that area are not pleasant, and they're not leaving. They haven't left for the entire time I've lived in the downtown of Barrie. It's always been the same. So I have great hope that if this property sells, that someone is going to buy it, and they're going to do something amazing, and that will potentially save the downtown of the city of Barrie.
Thank you. Trustee Beacock.
Thanks, Madam Chair, and through you to Superintendent Nance. One of the concerns is around the students and the timeline in terms of the closure. And I know in the past, we have sold property and then leased it back for a period of time in order to accommodate for whatever reasons there might have been. In a situation like this, where there would be the potential for selling the property with an end date of 2016, is there something that could be put into the purchase that would guarantee that if the school was required, for whatever reason, as we're hearing around the table, that the school board would have an opportunity to lease it for a period of one more year or whatever it might be, if that was the case? And I'm curious about that because I'd like to know that it's possible to put something like that into the sale so that we did have that option later on.
Thank you, through you, Chair Lloyd, Trustee Beacock, or Chair Beacock. It certainly is part of the negotiations of any sale agreement. We could look at that. It could be a conditional closure of this sale, closing at a date to be ascertained in the future. I think that is something that would be beyond the scope of the two motions at this point, but would certainly be the intent for staff to speak to how we would entertain these negotiations. So your question is a good one as far as whether it would be leased back, whether it would be to continue to have it available, as you referenced, into the future until a certain point. I think that that's where certainly, and we're getting close to the point where I think we may need to go into closed if we can speak frankly about what trustees and staff know about the situation with regard to the potential.
Thank you. Trustee Smith, question?
Yes, Madam Chair. As I've said, I'm concerned this is completely inappropriate at this time in this point in history. We know that the staff normally present recommendations to this effect. We also know that the likelihood that the public will perceive this as a slam dunk on the board's behalf is very likely. I am so concerned about this, I think we should go into closed session, and I would like to talk about the values of the property, and I also would like to make sure we have a recorded vote, whether it's closed or in.
Thank you. I have exhausted my speakers list, so I'm going to take the opportunity to say a few words. There's nothing about Barrie Central and how we've dealt with Barrie Central that it is the same as any other school we've dealt with. We have given no other school in this board the same consideration that we've given Barrie Central. We have never given any other school the same amount of time for opportunity to find a partnership. We have given preferential treatment, in my opinion, to Barrie Central. We worked endlessly and tirelessly to try and secure a partnership that did not come together. And for those trustees who attended the last meeting with the respondent, I know not all trustees were there, it was very clear that there is not a partnership. There is no potential partnership there anymore. There is no partnership. So we have to move forward on the recommendations that we passed in 2011, which is closing the school. But there is huge potential for that site. There is huge potential for the city of Barrie. And moving forward, in my opinion, is the best possible thing we could do as a board for the city of Barrie to give opportunity in the downtown and opportunity for that site. And I believe we need to move forward on this for the benefit of the city of Barrie. It's unfortunate that we couldn't make a partnership there. And you know, I've read numerous articles recently with respect to partnerships, this type of partnership. And many of the articles say they're great in theory, very, very difficult to pull off in reality. Very few people have the money that's needed, very few people have the resources available, and they're very, very difficult to get an agreement in place. And we certainly put our best effort into doing so. We tried very hard, but we know there's huge potential for that site. And I think if we do not move forward and we wait until 2016 to start considering that, that potential will have walked, and the city of Barrie will have lost. And so I think, as much as it's disappointing in the community that we didn't reach a partnership and we were not able to save Barrie Central and it's moving forward, the best thing I can do as a trustee and as a board member here is give Barrie the opportunity for something else at that site. And so I know it's unique, I know it's not how we've dealt with other sites, but there's nothing unique about, there's nothing the same about Barrie Central and how we've handled the whole process in Barrie Central. So I'm quite prepared to think out of the box. I'm quite prepared to do something that may be different from the norm. I'm quite prepared to do something that I think is in the best interest of the city of Barrie, and especially the downtown core, because I know Mr. Lehman is very concerned about that and the development of the downtown core. I think if we don't move forward on this and give an intent, downtown core will have lost this opportunity. Plain and simple, it will be gone, it will have walked, and they're not going to wait for us to decide July 2016 what we're doing, and for that process to take another year. So I really strongly think we need to consider this, and I think we need to take action tonight if we truly are concerned about the best interests of the town, of the city of Barrie and the downtown core. Trustee Locke?
Just a point of clarification that the property values are in the BFD2, so they are in public currently right now. And just one question, have we ever kept the school going longer than what the motion from the board stated is the closure date? Superintendent, you did a dance, please.
Thank you, and through Chair Lloyd and Trustee Locke, yes, we have. Prince of Wales Public School was kept open for a year while construction continued. Hillcrest Public School, that's the most recent example, I believe.
Okay, thank you. Any other speakers? Okay, no other motions. So at this point in time, we've asked for a recorded vote on these motions, and so I will hand it over. Pardon? We have moved them as a package. I believe you might move them as a package, and they were seconded. So I will hand it over to Superintendent Dennis to do the recorded vote.
Great, thank you very much, Chair. A recorded vote has been requested on the motions on the table. All those in favor of the motions, please stand. Trustee Locke, Trustee Ley, Trustee Williams, Trustee Lloyd. All those opposed to the motion, please stand. Trustee Smith, Chair Beacock, Trustee Armstrong. All those abstaining. Trustee Mayne. The motion passes 4-3 with 1 abstain.
Okay, so that matter has been dealt with, unless there's any further discussion with respect to this report. Okay, so that takes us on to contract awards within approved budget. Superintendent Jeff, please.
Thanks, Chair Lloyd. The report you have before you tonight is the contracts that have been awarded within approved budget for the month of October. I would like to just deal with one up front, and that's the supply and delivery of air filters that was submitted by DAFCO Filtration Group. You may have already noticed that the bid price on that contract was significantly lower than any of the other bid prices. I think upwards of $130,000 or more. We have confirmed with DAFCO that amount, and they are prepared to provide the supply of air filters at the quoted price in the report, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
Are there any questions from trustees on this report? Okay, seeing none, that was for information, and that moves us to item number 7, which is trustee expenditures. And that's Superintendent Jeff, please.
Thank you again, Chair Lloyd, and through you. The report tonight before you is just it's an information item about trustee expenditures and making those expenditures public. The reason it's here is because we've seen a rise in school boards across the province that have been making trustee expenditures public on an annual basis, and certainly there's no requirement under the broader Public Sector Accountability Act to do that. There are some public sector entities that are required under the Act to post expenses. School boards aren't at this point. As I mentioned, a number of boards in the province have moved in the direction of voluntarily posting trustee expenses. And so I'd be happy to take any questions. I will suggest that what those boards are posting on an annual basis is basically what is shown in Appendix A, but broken out in terms of individual trustee expenses that make up those total numbers in Appendix A. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Mr. Beacock?
Thank you, Madam Chair. One of the things that we've discovered over the last few months during our election period was the fact that a number of boards have, particularly Toronto District School Board, have been FOI'd in order to get information. This is something that I believe, while there is no regulation that says we should be doing it, I think that it's something that we need to do to show the public that we don't make a ton of money, that we don't spend a ton of money, and I think there's a perception out there, certainly with some people and in some boards, that is the case. And I think the only way that we're going to be able to resolve the problem and get it out into the public is to actually go ahead and do it. I, as the chair, have spoken to media about basic numbers, but I am not in a position, nor are staff, to be able to give out information without at least having the conversation with trustees first, because there is no regulation that means that we need to all understand and be willing to do that. So with this report, I'm really hoping that we don't need a motion, and I'll tell you right up front that we do have some media who have requested the information, and I've asked them to hold off because we needed to have this conversation, and they are looking for information to put into an article along with the Catholic School Board. So I would encourage that we can maybe come to consensus to be able to do this tonight, as opposed to a motion that would have to take us till the end of the month, because I believe it is inappropriate or unfair for the media to have to FOI the information that really we have no reason not to put out there. So I'm hoping that we'll be able to do that tonight. Thank you.
Trustee Armstrong?
I think it's a very valuable thing to showing transparency. We're using taxpayer dollars as far as honorarium expenses, and I think it's actually a good thing, not only that the chair, because I believe the chair and the director are aware, they sign off on these expenses, so they're aware of individual expenses, but the individual members aren't aware of your expenses or your expenses or your expenses, and sometimes, especially reading the articles about the Toronto District School Board, something about a walking tour in Israel, like, really? I mean, who signed off on that one? That's astounding. So I'd be really happy to know my individual trustee expenses, because at times, especially the issue about professional developments, I think we all need to be aware of who is utilizing it and maybe encourage others to utilize it more, or maybe encourage others to utilize it less. And if we don't know that, and I don't know if this has to be on a monthly basis or a quarterly basis or even a yearly basis, but I think yearly is too long. I think for sure, maybe monthly is too much, but quarterly would be helpful. to know, what are you spending? The other part of it, is, I think too, that's an interest to me, is expenses due to the regional areas, the different regional areas that we represent. I mean, distance-wise, I don't think we appreciate that some people's kilometerage is just huge because of getting to this table or the distance they have to cover for their schools. So, I appreciate that. I think the years have gone by when I've heard, not that I've been chair or vice chair, but heard of some occasionally trustees asking or inputting things for expenses that are not reasonable. But I think this board has been very austere, and I'd be very proud for everybody to see head to head how we're using our public funds, because frankly, I think we're very, very cognizant that we're not going to be expensing a pack of gum or earbuds from some airline or something like that. So I think that would be a great thing, no problem with it. I'm just sorry it's probably work for some individual staff member. There's just now more work. So they're going to be, I'm fully in favor of it, and I don't know the timing. If we did come to consensus, I guess my question is to Superintendent Justice, when's the good timing for that? Or do you suggest monthly or quarterly, or how would you like to see that roll out?
Superintendent Justice.
Thank you, Chair Lloyd, and through you to Vice Chair Armstrong. But the boards that I've investigated, they've done they've posted on an annual basis a summary of the expenses in accordance with what I provided in terms of Appendix A. So in the case of, if we were to do this, I'd suggest that we would post 1314, which have been recently audited, and the table will see that next week at special board meeting, but certainly go back and post 1314's expenses. So for instance, each trustee would post the total that was expended in terms by trustee in terms of travel, kilometerage, communication, and professional development. I do think that in the event that we received an FOI for specific details on any one of those particulars, under the terms of the Act, we'd likely be required to disclose that information. So at this point in time, I think we look at providing summary information, and then in the event somebody made a request for details, I suspect we would want to go ahead and provide that.
Trustee Ley, please.
Thank you very much. I'm certainly in favor of, I agree with Trustee Armstrong. I do have a concern though, and Trustee Armstrong did touch on it. Some trustees like myself live very close to the board office, some live very far away, and I wouldn't want the public to misunderstand when they see those figures, because they could appear very stilted, and I think we need to give some context for that information if possible, just to clarify, for instance, that we have a professional development budget of so much per year, and to give a few more details than just the absolute numbers.
Superintendent Justice.
Thank you, Chair Lloyd, and through you, we certainly would we'd certainly want to provide some context as well, Trustee Ley, just so that it's not misinterpreted. For the public to get the information, we would provide a budget and then breakout in terms of expenditures by trustees, and likely include some notes at the bottom that would add to the report and give greater clarification to the report and some additional context for sure.
Thank you very much.
And Trustee Locke, did you want to speak?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a couple of comments. I do know that I believe the Toronto Star was invoiced $5,400 for the staff time it took to find all those details. I believe that we could do it probably a lot cheaper. But I do want to comment too about the mileage. I remember when Trustee North became chair. It was about 2 weeks later, he called me and says, "I'm finally not angry at you anymore." And I kind of said, "What?" He said, "Your mileage." He says, "It took me a week to realize that as much mileage as you had, if you hadn't have gone to those events, there wouldn't have been one person there from Simcoe County District School Board." So the mileage issue is a concern to me, because I do try and get involved in a lot of different things, but I have no issue. I mean, post away.
So is there consensus at the table though, but there's no objection whatsoever to posting? Trustee Smith?
I didn't want to speak.
Okay.
I think you do need a motion though, because it is an important item. And whether you have consensus or not, we're still at committee, and it's not a past consensus. So you're also missing the members' report here tonight. So I would be comfortable with the motion, if you certainly support it, but I do think you need a motion.
Mr. Beacock?
Thanks, Madam Chair. The motion means that it's the end of the month. So if we're trying to be proactive and getting the information out there sooner rather than later, then I would hope that consensus would be fine, because I don't see where a motion is required, providing us at the table are okay with it. And if it is a motion, it's another month, and that means that there could be an FOI, and do we need to really put media through an FOI for information that, quite frankly, probably should be public anyway? So I really hope that we don't have to do this, because tomorrow I have to call back to a media and tell them what the decision was. And if I have to tell them it's a month before we get to board, then guess what? We're going to do an FOI, or they're likely going to do an FOI, and we're going to have to give them the information anyway. So to me, it is pointless to be waiting to do something that we all ought to have been doing probably for a while. And I've said for 2 years that it's time we've done something like this. I'm prepared to have mine posted tomorrow so that the newspaper can get some information if the rest of the table won't agree. Because truly, it makes no sense. It's something that, actually, it's something that in the past, I'm sure, Trustee Smith, you would actually like to see out there. So I'm a little confused.
You're missing my point. Mayor, you're missing my point, because he's talking, cross-talking, that's possible.
Okay, well, at this point in time, if you're prepared to move a motion, move it. Otherwise, we're going to move on in the agenda.
Okay, may I make a comment though, please? I think the issue here is that you can have both. You can have the consensus that you want. You can also have a motion that puts it mandatorily into the board's working requirements. My concern is consensus is once, but an ongoing, you need a motion. And I think it's a wonderful idea. I think it's a great idea, but I think that to just make it consensus for one thing is not really what is really the goal, is to make it an ongoing thing. So that's why I would like to see a motion on the table.
Trustee Beacock.
Thanks, Madam Chair. So the first thing I need to know, so I have a motion, but the first thing I need to know is there consensus to release information tomorrow? Or are we waiting a month? That's what, I'm not clear on that.
I do believe you have consensus to release the information to the people who are sitting here at this table.
No, Madam Chair, that would be incorrect. He has permission from
Is he going to be acknowledged at the table? Thank you.
Pardon.
All right, at this point in time, I have not heard anyone object to their information being released tomorrow. Is there anyone at this table who objects to their information being released tomorrow? Okay, I see none. So I would suggest then you have a consensus for the group at the table to release their information tomorrow. So now if you'd like to move your motion, please do so.
So Madam Chair, I have a motion moved by myself and seconded by, I don't have one, so I need Trustee Armstrong, thank you. That the business and facilities, you want to read it?
As long as I can read your writing.
Fine.
That the Business and Facilities Standing Committee recommend to the board that the trustee expenses be posted on the board website following the November 26th board meeting.
That's fine.
Okay, but I don't believe this motion is going to accomplish what we want on an ongoing basis. It's I think it would need to be more specific and say, and expenses will be posted on an annual basis. So can I make a friendly amendment to this or change this to, okay? And Superintendent Jess, would it be appropriate to say that it be posted at on an annual basis after the audit?
Through you, Chair Lloyd, yeah, absolutely. I think that would be the appropriate time. So once we've completed the audit and the financial statements have been approved by board, we would then subsequently post that year's trustee expenditure summary.
Okay, so here's the motion, that the Business and Facilities Standing Committee recommend to the board that trustee expenses be posted on the board website on an annual basis following the approval of the audited financial statements. Does that sound appropriate to everyone? So it's moved by Peter Beacock, seconded by Donna Armstrong. Is there any discussion with respect to this motion? Okay, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that motion carries. That completes our agenda on items for information. It takes two. Sorry. Yes.
Can I just ask a clarification for my staff? So tonight we have X amount of trustees that are here that I've heard consensus from. My intent would be to have Superintendent Jess contact the rest of our trustees to seek their consensus as well, their permission as well.
I'm seeing nodding of heads, so I think that's the route.
I just wanted to clarify that would be what we would then be pursuing as well.
Yeah, for the release tomorrow, after the motion at the end of the month, that would be done annually.
Thank you.
Okay. We have no correspondence. Are there any other matters at this point in time? Okay, any other notices and motion for the next meeting? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Trustee Locke, seconded by Trustee Ley. All those in favor? Thank you, and that carries.